In engineering physics, we are discussing ultrasonics. In the last session, we have seen the production of ultrasonic waves by two different methods, namely magnetostriction method and piezoelectric effect method. Now, in this session, we will focus on how to detect the ultrasonic waves that are produced. Ultrasonic waves just cannot be detected directly. So we have to detect ultrasonic waves by using indirect methods. So there are three different approaches through which ultrasonic waves can be detected. All the three are indirect methods only. The first one is a very well-known method, what we call as quartz crystal method. In quartz crystal method, the principle is piezoelectric effect. That is, when one pair of faces of a quartz crystal is exposed to ultrasonic waves, electric charges are developed on the other pair of opposite faces which are perpendicular to the previous one. So these charges are amplified and detected by using electronic circuit. That is quartz crystal method. The second method is called thermal detection method. What is thermal detection method? Now, if you carefully observe, this thermal detection method is used for the detection of ultrasonic waves in which a fine platinum wire is moved through the medium. Because ultrasonics produce heating effect, when a platinum wire is moved in the region of ultrasonics, wire gets heated, that will result in change in temperature in that part of the wire. So change in temperature naturally brings about change in the electric resistance of the platinum wire. So that is the technique used here. So in thermal detection method, because ultrasonics have got a habit of producing heating effect when they are passing through, so we make a platinum wire being moved in the region of ultrasonics. Therefore, wire gets heated, which result in the change in temperature in that part of the wire. Change in temperature naturally brings change in the electrical resistance of the platinum. So because of that, two things will happen. So let us look at the circuitry approach of thermal detection method. This is how thermal detection method schematic approach looks like. Due to compression and rarefaction very rapidly taking place at nodes, it causes some adiabatic changes. So the platinum wire is alternately heated and cooled, resulting in the change of resistance. That may be measured with the help of Griffith bridge. So there are two ohmmeters arranged here. Whenever resistance changes, you will find some compression area. When resistance is steady, you will find the rarefaction area. Ultrasonic waves are sent through. So platinum wire is injected into this. So you can observe change in the platinum wire due to heating effect appearing as compression and rarefaction. So it will be observed that at nodes it is very rapid, but at antinodes there will be no change in temperature. So due to the adiabatic change, platinum wire gets heated up. And whenever there is a change, it gets heated up. Alternatively, it cools down. So these differences between this heating and cooling due to the resistance change, that can be measured with Griffith bridge. This approach is called Griffith bridge. This is how you can detect ultrasonic waves indirectly. There is another method of identifying or detecting ultrasonic waves is what is known as Kunst-Tube method. So this is about ultrasonic detection through thermal process. The other method is the Kunstube. This is the Kunstube design. Here in this, ultrasonic waves are injected from one side and detected on the other side. Lycopodium powder is sprinkled in Kunstube that spreads in the form of a stationary wave when ultrasonic waves are passed through the tube. This method is useful to detect ultrasonics of very relatively large wavelength. So the lycopodium powder collects in the form of heaps. So when ultrasonic waves go through the glass tube filled with this lycopodium powder and sprinkled inside, the powder gets blown off and forms heaps at nodal point. So the distance between any two nodes naturally is equal to half of the wavelength here. So therefore D is measured, that is the distance between them, as lambda by 2. The wavelength of ultrasonic waves is calculated like this. This method is used only for the detection of ultrasonic waves. It is restricted only to low frequency waves. It's not suited for high frequency waves. This is about detecting ultrasonic waves using Kunstube method. Another indirect method of detecting ultrasonic waves is what is known as sensitive flame method. Sensitive flame is moved in the region of ultrasonics. So at antinodes, the flame is steady, and at nodes, the flame flickers. Flickers means because of change in pressure it flickers. Ultrasonic waves are detected by moving the sensitive flame in the medium. So stationary positions of flame at antinodes and the flickering position at nodes, that difference will help us in finding the exact location of nodes and antinodes. Wherever nodes are there, then you can find. Wherever antinodes are there, how do you know? That means wherever flame is flickering, it is a node. Wherever flame is stationary, it is antinode. That's how we detect the presence of the waves. So the mean distance between the two consecutive nodes naturally gives the wavelength of the ultrasonic waves. So this is how, when two successive nodes, mean distance will be calculated as lambda, that is wavelength of the ultrasonic waves. This is yet another method of detecting ultrasonic waves using indirect techniques. So altogether you have few different techniques. One is called quartz crystal method, then another is called thermal detection method, and the other one is called Kunstube method, and also now we have seen another method called sensitive flame method. Let us understand a phenomena called acoustical grating. Now we know that ultrasonic waves are sound waves. Therefore, they travel through any medium just like longitudinal waves. That means they compress and rarefy. There are compressions and rarefactions in longitudinal approach. No? So therefore, these waves, they have a compression and a rarefaction. So they compress and rarefy the medium when they travel through. So these compressions and rarefactions naturally introduce pressure variation all along the path of the ultrasonic waves. So this property of traveling wave, it is used as the principle for acoustical grating. So let us see the principle. Now when you look at the principle of acoustical grating, when an ultrasonic wave is passed through a liquid, the variation in pressure changes the refractive index of the liquid at those places of pressure variation. That means wherever the pressure is varying, the refractive index changes of the medium. For example, in this case, we took the liquid medium. So therefore, whenever an ultrasonic wave is passing through that liquid, the pressure variation naturally changes the refractive index of the liquid at that point. Wherever the variations are coming, the pressure changes can be observed. So the refractive index increases at certain points and decreases at some other points. So the refractive index increases at nodes because compressions, that means maximum pressure, and it reduces at antinodes, that means minimum, rarefaction occurs. So because of minimum pressure, rarefaction occurs at antinodes, and because of maximum pressure variation, compression occurs at nodes. So because the wavelength of an ultrasonic wave is very small, because of its naturally high frequency, the distance between the nodes and antinodes are very small, and therefore the entire region acts like a grating with rulings, and rulings means nodes, and slits, that is antinodes. So nodes and antinodes will act as ruling and slit of a grating. Now, if light is passing through such liquid, naturally it undergoes changes in its velocity and gets diffracted. So from diffraction condition, the velocity of the ultrasonic wave can be calculated. This is what I have just now explained. So I am just quickly recapping before going to the experimental setup. Ultrasonic waves, being sound waves, when they travel through the medium, behave like longitudinal waves, therefore should possess compressions and rarefactions. Thus, they compress and rarefy the medium when they travel. These compressions and rarefactions introduce some pressure changes all along the path of the ultrasonic waves. This property is what is known as the principle of acoustical grating. That is, when an ultrasonic wave, let us say, is passing through a liquid, the variation in the pressure changes the refractive index of the liquid. That means whenever there is a change in pressure, it changes the refractive index of the liquid at those places of pressure variation. So the refractive index increases at nodes because of compressions, thus getting maximum pressure, and reduces at antinodes, that is minimum pressure, rarefactions will be occurring. As the wavelength of an ultrasonic wave is very small due to its naturally high frequency, the distance between the nodes and antinodes are very small, and therefore the entire region acts like a grating, with the nodes acting as rulings and antinodes acting as slits. Now, in such a situation, if a light is allowed to pass through such liquid, it undergoes changes in its velocity and gets diffracted. So from a diffraction condition, we can find the velocity of ultrasonic waves. So let us see the experimental setup of this. So this is the experimental arrangement of acoustical grating. The arrangement, if you observe carefully, consists of a piezoelectric oscillator. So this piezoelectric oscillator circuit is connected to the end of a tank containing liquid. So when the oscillator is switched off, the light passes through the liquid without any deviation, and only an image of the source is seen. But when the oscillator is switched on, this ultrasonic waves set up standing wave pattern like this, and thus nodes and antinodes are formed in the liquid, producing a grating effect. So therefore, the change in the refractive index act like an acoustical grating and produces a diffraction pattern. So where you will have first order maxima on either side and central maxima in the middle. Understood? So let me recap. So if you observe the experimental arrangement, this is having a piezoelectric oscillator circuit which is connected to the end of a tank containing the liquid, and through the liquid, in fact, the ultrasonic waves are made to pass through. Now what is happening can be observed through the telescope arrangement here. So when you switch off this particular operator, the light is passing through the liquid, let us say, then you don't find any deviation in the light, and only image of the source can be seen. But when you switch it on, this oscillator circuit, the ultrasonic waves are set up inside as a standing wave pattern as shown here. So therefore nodes and antinodes are formed in the liquid, producing the diffraction pattern, where you can observe through telescope here the first order maximum on either side with central maxima in the minimum. Okay. So this is how the setup looks like. So that is what I mentioned here. Whenever the oscillator circuit is connected to the end of the tank, and when the oscillator circuit is in switch off position, when light is passing through, you don't find any deviation, only image of the source can be seen. But once you switch it on and allow the ultrasonic waves to pass through, these ultrasonic waves, while passing through the liquid, set up a standing wave pattern. Therefore, it helps you to observe nodes and antinodes, like a grating experiment on the other side, which you can observe through this eyepiece. So you find first order maxima on either side with central maxima in the middle. That means there is some pressure variation and refractive index of the liquid got changed. So change in the refractive index acts like an acoustical grating and it produces a diffraction pattern. So according to the diffraction condition, what is the diffraction condition we studied? 2d sin theta equal to n lambda, where d is the distance between the two adjacent nodes or antinodes. And therefore from the figure, we can use the diffraction condition. What is the diffraction condition? 2d sin theta is equal to n lambda, where d is the distance. Therefore, by measuring the angle here and then number along with the wavelength, you can find the d value. D value half of the wavelength. Suppose if f is the frequency and v is the velocity of the ultrasonic wave, then you can find the velocity as v equal to frequency into wavelength. So wavelength is found to be 2d. Therefore, if you substitute 2d for lambda in this, v will become f into 2d, 2fd or 2df. So from this equation, you can measure the velocity of ultrasonic waves. So this method is useful in measuring the velocity of ultrasonic waves in both liquids and solids. That means at different temperatures. So in fluids, you can measure at different temperatures in fluids, you can measure the velocity of ultrasonic waves using acoustical grating. That means when ultrasonic waves are passing through a liquid, you can observe a diffraction pattern. Based on the observation of a diffraction pattern, you can calculate the velocity of ultrasonic waves. This is what is acoustical grating is all about. So when you talk about sounds of very high frequency, they are beyond the limit of human hearing, generally in the range of 500 kilohertz to 20 megahertz. So using the frequencies or pitch, you can try to characterize the thickness or an internal structure of a material to identify the defects in a material. That is possible. So various test pieces or material pieces you can see, you can take and study their internal structure with the help of high frequency sound waves like ultrasonics without actually damaging the substance. By passing the ultrasonic waves onto the material, even though their frequency is very high, it need not damage the material. So the test piece can be kept as it is, and we can study the characterization of thickness as well as internal structure to identify the defects or flaws inside the material can be studied. That is because you are able to study with that frequency without actually damaging the object. Therefore, it is what is known as non-destructive testing. This is very crucial, the non-destructive testing, also known as NDT. So, ultrasonic non-destructive testing. So, it is called ultrasonic non-destructive testing or simply UT, ultrasonic testing. So, it is nothing but the different techniques or testing methods to examine an object or a material or a system without actually damaging that. So, a substance need not be damaged. It is generally applied in non-medical investigation of material integrity. Non-destructive testing, NDT what we call, does include non-invasive medical diagnostics also, like ultrasound scanning, X-ray scanning, endoscopy, etc. These are used for both medical testing as well as industrial testing also. So being high frequency waves, we can use them in characterizing the thickness or internal structure of a test piece by use of high frequency sound waves. So the frequencies or pitch used for ultrasonic testing are many times higher than the limit of human hearing. Most commonly in the range of 500 kilohertz to 20 megahertz. So such a testing is what is known as non-destructive testing. It can be defined as something comprising those test methods used to examine an object or a material or a system without damaging the object for further use. It is generally applied to non-medical investigations of material integrity. Non-destructive testing does include non-invasive medical diagnostics. For example, if you take tests like ultrasound scanning, X-ray scanning and endoscope are used for both medical testing as well as industrial testing. So that is what we need to recap to understand NDT. Non-destructive testing is generally used to investigate the material integrity of the test object and also in finding the defects in that object without actually harming the object. That means without damaging the object. Often, finding these defects is being a very important task in various fields. For example, if you take aircraft industry, non-destructive testing can be used to look for internal changes or signs of wear and tear of aeroplanes. Discovering defects will increase the safety of passengers. Similarly, if you take rail or road industry, it also uses non-destructive testing to examine the railway rails for signs of damage, whether they are damaged or not, can be tested. Internally cracked rails, for example, could fracture and derail the train carrying some, for example, goods trains like wheat or coal or even people. Passenger trains are normal goods trains. When they are traveling, how do you know whether the rail on which they are traveling is internally cracked? So without actually damaging the railway track, you can actually measure and detect the flaw inside using non-destructive testing. Suppose if an aeroplane or a rail had to be cut into pieces to be examined, it would naturally destroy their usefulness. So defects can be found before they become dangerous with non-destructive testing. So let us look at basic principle involved in non-destructive testing. Non-destructive testing is, as I told you, is a method of finding defects in an object without actually causing any harm to the object. That means object that is being tested will not be damaged. So therefore sound with high frequencies or ultrasound, what we call this, is one method used in non-destructive testing. Ultrasonic waves are used to detect the presence of flaws or defects in the form of cracks or blowholes or porosity in the internal structure of a material. So ultrasonic waves are emitted from where? Generally ultrasonic waves are emitted from a transducer. So it is the transducer that emits an ultrasonic wave that is injected into an object, and the returning waves from the object are analyzed. That means through transducer, the waves emitted as ultrasonic are injected into the object to be studied, and the waves that are injected into the object, they get reflected back, and the returning waves from the object are studied or analyzed for identifying the defects or flaws inside. Suppose if there is an impurity or a crack is present inside the object, so naturally the sound wave which got injected into the object will bounce back. It will bounce off them, and that can be seen in the return signal very clearly. So this is the basic principle on which non-destructive testing takes place. I am just recapping the non-destructive testing. Non-destructive testing is a method of finding defects in an object without actually damaging or harming the object to be tested. Sound waves with high frequencies such as ultrasonics are used. This is one method that is generally adopted in non-destructive testing. Here what happens? Ultrasonic waves are used to detect the presence of any deformity, any flaw or any defects inside the object in the form of cracks, blowholes or porosity in the internal structure of the material. How do we do that? To carry this, we need ultrasonic waves. Generally, ultrasonic waves are emitted from a device what we call as a transducer. So, the ultrasonic waves emitted from a transducer are fed to the object to be tested. And when they enter in object to the object, we feed the ultrasonic waves as an input. And the output ultrasonic waves from the object we will analyze. That is, the returning waves are analyzed. For example, in the object there is an impurity, there is a crack inside. Then automatically the sound you have injected will bounce off them, and that can be seen in the returned result or returned signal. So by analyzing the returned signal from the object after injecting the signal ultrasonic wave generated from a transducer, we can identify the crack or a blowhole or a porosity or a flaw in the internal structure of a object that is being tested, actually without disturbing the object. That means the sound wave we are sending as an input signal does not damage the object. Therefore, object properties are intact. Therefore, there is no harming. That's why we use the term non-destructive. So, this is how basic principle of NDT can be understood. Basically, there are two methods of receiving the ultrasound waveform. So, ultrasound waveform receiving, there are two different methods. We call them as through transmission method and through pulse echo method. Transmission method is also known as attenuation method. Pulse echo method is what is known as reflection method. Using these two methods, we can receive the ultrasound waveform for detection of flaws in the object. That we shall take it up in the next session. So in the current session, so far we have seen how ultrasonic waves can be detected by using various indirect methods like quartz crystal method, thermal detection method, Kunz tube method, sensitive flame method. And then we tried to understand something what is known as acoustical grating, what is the basic principle involved, and what is the experimental setup. Then from that experimental setup of acoustical grating, how do we measure the velocity of the ultrasonic wave, both in liquids as well as gases at various temperatures. And then we try to understand something what is known as non-destructive testing, why it is used, where it is used, what is the basic principle involved, and we conclude this session by just getting introduced to the concept of two methods of receiving ultrasonic sound in the form of a wave by two different methods, namely attenuation method and reflection method. Attenuation method is also known as through transmission. Reflection method is also known as pulse echo mode. So you have two different modes of receiving ultrasound waveform. So we shall discuss each of these modes separately and understand their merits and demerits in the next session, right?